Hey y'all. So 2 weeks ago I did the Atlanta Self-Publishing Conference, and I spoke about diversifying your content. And it was a very good presentation, if I do say so myself. And it was a way just to give back and to talk about what we do as writers. So most of you out there are probably writers that are watching this right now, paying attention to it. You write short stories and you write novels. But when I first created MV Media, the reason I didn't call it MV Media Publishing was because I could see how later on I could take things that I wrote and basically put it into different situations. And what I'm saying is that, basically looking at from a business standpoint, looking at what you're writing and looking at it, developing it into other forms of entertainment. Everything that you've ever watched has been written. Of course, everything that you read has been written. So when I started writing, when I wrote my stories, my initial thing was, let me write this novel because I want to write a novel. But once I'm finished with them, I'm saying, well, what else can I do with them? One of the easiest transitions has been taking what I've written and making it into comic book form. And one of the reasons it's been so easy for me is because years ago, I was in a group called Black Superhero, which was basically a group of Black comic book creators. So I knew people who did this type of stuff that took stories and created stories and made them into comic books. So my thing was I could take my stories that I've written as novels, short stories, whatever, and adapt them into comic book form. I'm not a big comic book person. However, I did read them growing up, but I just saw this as another way of doing what I do and expressing my ideals and stuff like that. And so I've done it. There's a couple of examples I can show you here. One of the most popular ones is, of course, the Changa Safari series, and that's what I'm highlighting this week on my comic book thing. And the story, Changa and the Jade Obelisk, was actually based on the first novella from Changa Safari, the Jade Obelisk. Took this story, got with a friend of mine, Jason Reeves, who owns a comic book company in Los Angeles, 133 Art, and I said, hey, Jason, I want to make this into a comic book. And Jason said, cool, let's do it. Jason had all the context. He had the writer that could take the story and adapt it into comic book form. He had the artist, he had the colorist, and he had the letterers, and the result was the comic book series. Another one, which was more of a spontaneous project, was based on one of the stories in my Fallen short story collection called The Blood Eaters. I knew an artist by the name of Chris Mosby who read my stories and liked it. And he just basically took that story and adapted it into a graphic novel called The Blood Seekers. And last but not least, this one actually started out as a screenplay in Golo Diaspora. And we took that screenplay and we actually teamed up with Peta Studios and developed it into a comic book in Golo Diaspora. And from that comic book, we actually wrote a novella in Golo Diaspora. So here you got an ideal, in this case, being, developed into 3 different forms. Now, there's some other things going on that I can't show you. For instance, my novella, Playing the Odds, which we basically are adapting into a animated series, and they're actually going to be a graphic novel based on that. And then there's my short story, Grandpa's Hands, which was nominated for a Pushcart Award. I just recently wrote that and made it into a screenplay, which I've had a couple of my screenplay friends take a look at, and they say it's a good screenplay. So hopefully next year I'll be teaming with some indie filmmakers, and we'll be making that into a short film. So, those are just examples of course, I forgot one more thing, audiobooks. Audiobooks is another form of entertainment, another form of reading a book that you can also adapt your books into. And all these different things are like different, it's taking your creativity and expressing it in different ways. Now, a lot of this I've been able to do a lot of this because over the years, I've had a chance to network with different people. So whenever I have an idea about doing something like this, there's always somebody I can reach out to that can actually make it happen. I don't have to take myself through the process of learning how to do it myself, even though I am, because I'm just interested in doing it and being able to learn different forms of writing. It's easy for me to just network with somebody. Now, that's kind of what people are trying to do when they're trying to get into doing Hollywood or television type thing. And it's a long, drawn out process, and it can be successful over a period of time. But I'm kind of an indie person. I like doing stuff independently, and I like working with other indie creators. I like the energy. I like how they work and what they do. And so I'm always looking at these projects. I'm always looking at partnering with indie creators and doing this. And another reason I like working with indie creators is because I'm more likely to see my stories the way I want to see them than I would be working through other processes, because other people have input, and sometimes that input is valuable, sometimes that input is frivolous. It's just a person trying to put their own stamp on something. So I'd rather work with people who are more focused on getting the process done, and anything that they bring to you or suggest is to improve it, not necessarily just to do something that might be unnecessary. And there's one more project I forgot to bring. One more way you can do this. I also lend my skills out to other people. I've had friends of mine who were working on short films, working on comic books and stuff, and they needed a story writer. And I'd take a look at the project, and if I thought the project was interesting, if it was something that I could get into, then I'd write a story for them. I've written a couple of short stories for friends of mine who had different projects, different worlds, and they're trying to build. I currently have a script that I collaborated with a guy who is an African martial arts expert, and he's into making short films. And he came to me and said, "Hey man, I want to make this short film. Would you write a script for me?" I sat down and wrote the script for him, and then I showed it to him, and then he brought his expertise into it, and it became a collaboration. And right now they're actually filming this. They're in the process of making this short film, and I can't wait to see it, because of the way we was able to collaborate, and the things that both of us brought to the table were really exciting. So that's basically what I talked about a couple of weeks ago, just kind of a condensed version of it. But whenever you're out creating, if you're just doing it for fun, if you're looking at for as another revenue stream, just think about the different ways that your stories can be adapted, and the ways they can be in the other areas that they can enter into. We talked about comic books, we talked about movie scripts, we talked about animation. So there's so many different ways that you can take this, podcasts, web comics. There's so many different things that you can do with your writing, and expand it into different areas and different audiences. So that's what I got for you today. Y'all take care. Peace.